Welcome to Your County on Community 7 Television. I'm Schutz Veis and I'm your host. Each month we look at a different aspect of what's going on in Yellowstone County. This month we're happy to have on one of our reoccurring guests on this particular show, Commissioner Denis Pitman. Dennis, thank you so much for coming down to visit with us and talk about what's going on in Yellowstone County.
Thanks for having me here.
All right, absolutely. So kind of give us the latest update on where Yellowstone County is, COVID-19 pandemic. I'm sure that takes up a good portion of what you guys are doing. Kind of give us the latest and greatest news of what you know about what's going on with that.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. You know, it's from the very beginning of this, we've been kind of writing the book on a global pandemic. When you open up the natural disaster book, there's floods, there's fires, earthquakes, but really we were missing the pandemic part of this, and we were very fortunate in the fact that from the very beginning, we had just a couple years ago hired a new DES director, and you've interviewed Casey. Yeah. Came to us with a ton of knowledge on how to set this up. So activated all of the protocols we needed to start getting all the players in place in dealing with this, and that was a huge endeavor, and it's been, I guess, probably one of the prouder things of what's been going on in the county is I think we've taken a leadership role in bringing people together and directing them to the resources and how those resources roll out, to the point to where even the other counties are looking to us and asking, well, how do you do this? How do you apply for CARES money? How is this? What's available? What qualifies? What doesn't? And how do you do that? You know, we set up a fund with $300,000 in it right off the bat to start the money that we knew would get replenished, but he had said, you know, right from the very beginning, we've got to be moving things, and we can't be waiting for the state to give us money. So we use that cash of money to get us going, then it's really worked out well for us. Plus, then all the money funnels through there, can be traced and accounted for, and then we just get reimbursed from the state through that fund. So It makes the accounting a lot cleaner.
Do your best impression of a brief overview of how the county works with Riverstone Health and all that stuff in 2 minutes. How does Riverstone Health relate to the county?
So this is a great civics lesson. I think that's the one thing I'm telling people. There's two things that people are learning, and one of them is a civics lesson. How did things get to where they're at? Riverstone Health is a separate entity, and even though it's our county health department, it actually has a board. So that board is empowered through the legislature to exist, and then different government agencies appoint people to that board. It's been the big debate on who controls John Felton. You know, it's the number one topic, and why aren't the commissioners doing this, or who's in control of whatever? And the reality is we have the county appointed some members to that board. The city does. There's the health organizations all appoint people to that board. They then go and hire a director, and that's John Felton at this point. And for 99.9% of your life, if you're lucky, you don't have a global pandemic and you don't have all these people mad or upset with you. But ultimately, as we started coming down and having these directives, John has done an amazing job. He really has. He's never exceeded the governor's restrictions, other than this last time of pulling us back to no, gatherings of no more than 25. But other than that, he has never exceeded a governor's directive.
Give us an idea of what are the things that John's looking at, that you guys are looking at. What are the numbers that you guys are looking at to find out where we're at, how we're doing? Are we getting better? Are we getting worse? What are some of those things that you guys are looking at? And I know that he's looking at every single day.
And what, we started with, okay, this is the number. If we hit 50 a day or something, that's the drop dead, everything shuts down. We started realizing there were a lot of other factors being involved: the capacity of the hospital, sustainability of the hospitals, the nursing homes, the businesses around. And so it became just a very fluid thing of, okay, here are the things that are our triggers, but not necessarily the catastrophic figures, that we actually have to pull all these components in. So it really becomes not just a line in the sand, but it becomes this blurry little wave, and you go, okay, are you okay? Are you okay? Or you're okay? And if everybody's okay, even though the numbers are going up, we go, we've got this. And we're looking at currently, so you have to look at what's going on today, but also look at the trends and we have the luxury of looking throughout the nation and the history of this thing already. We go, okay, this is where it's going. Mm-hmm. And so this is where we need to be getting ready for now. And so we've always had that luxury, and we've been able to take advantage of it, which to our credit really has made the road less bumpy. But then all this, with it not being as bumpy, then people start questioning, should we have been doing any of this?
Right.
And realize, and it's one of those that, well, without this, it would have been totally chaotic. But what we've been doing has been just stabilizing our community.
Are you guys getting briefings once a day, once a week?
Yeah, no, we at one point when this first started, it was daily, and we were sometimes twice a day. And we were bringing in everyone from the schools to the hospitals and all the different facilities. We're down to a couple of times a week getting the briefings, unless something escalates. If things start escalating or we start seeing a hot button, then we can pull it together pretty quick. It's kind of the luxury of having Zoom and Teams and all that now is we don't have to hurry and get in the same room. We just have to say 3 o'clock, everybody get on your computer and we're going to have a meeting.
What have you guys gotten better, you and Riverstone Health, at tracking statistics? Are you tracking different statistics? Talk to us a little bit about how you're tracking those numbers that you're paying attention to.
Well, the tracking is a tricky thing. I mean, it starts getting into numbers. There's the people that are testing positive, the people that are actually being hospitalized because they tested positive and are actually having more severe reactions, and the people that have recovered. And one of the things we're really struggling with is once you get added to the list, the importance is getting people on the list, and getting them off the list seems to be the trailer that we're trying to figure out as well. So you've got the list and the numbers keep going up, which we expected, though that's what's supposed to happen. But as they start getting better, pulling them off and pulling them out of that is a lot harder to trace. So those numbers stay somewhat, almost even a little artificially high because of people that have gone through and have recovered.
What have you noticed as that your role as the county commissioner been from the beginning to where we are today, and has that changed over time?
Yeah, it really has. From the very beginning, I mean, nobody knew really what to expect, and I'm very proud of the commissioners and the board for taking that leadership role. I've always said that the commissioners have that luxury of being that umbrella through a lot of things, and we were able to do that with the city, with the schools, with all the different businesses in our community, even with some of the state level things, to bring them under that umbrella and give that direction and guidance and bringing everything together. And that was a key part of this, was communication, making sure that we were getting the right message out. We weren't alarming people, but at the same time we were preparing. And it's a lot nicer in a smaller group to be able to go, okay guys, here's what we're anticipating. Whether this happens or not, this is what we're anticipating. And you know, from the very beginning, the mayor and I stood in front of the cameras and said, we're going to make mistakes. There's no manual here. We're not going, okay, now we're on to week 6. What's the next thing we do? Week 7. That's just not there. And with this, it's just totally different. So we've been writing the book as we go, working with each other, communicating. Every once in a while, we fumble. We make a misstep here or there, and then we try to correct. One of the things we've been trying to do on the county level is see how far you can push things, see what the expectations of the public are, what they're willing to do, you know, that what they're willing to comply with and what they're not. We can't just make rules and punish people our way out of this. At the same time, trying to explain why masks are important and what they do or what they don't do are part of our job now. And leading by example and showing people that, yeah, I can't put you in jail. I'm not. I tell you right now, Shoots, you're not going to jail if I see you out on the street without a mask. But what we try to do now is try to say, look, it's important. I don't know your health condition. You don't know mine. But for the sake of both of us, these work.
Sure. Yep. What do you see? We've been through this for a number of months now, and you have had a chance to get some perspective on this. Where do you see this going in the next 6 months? What do you see kind of as the dynamics over the next 6 months? Yeah,
so we just had a briefing the other day that really is expecting that the next 6 to 8 weeks are kind of as we approach the pinnacle of this, and as that unfolds, that will tell us a lot. This is one of those things that we really can't stop, and there's no real treatment for, and that becomes, how do you prepare people for that without scaring them? And I think we've scared a lot of people. There's a lot of people very nervous because of health issues and things like that. But as we go forward, that becomes the key component to this.
Okay. What have you guys seen or had the, we have always been a regional medical center, right? And so Are we seeing an influx of people from the outlying areas who are getting sick and they can't get treated where they're at?
And that is our Achilles heel right now. We've been so proud of it. This is our legacy in our community. We are the medical corridor for 700 miles, right?
Yeah.
And that's been our pride and joy. We have an amazing medical corridor. Right now, only half the people that are utilizing the services in our hospitals are Yellowstone County residents. If we were just our own little island, we'd be doing just fine right now.
Yeah.
The reality is we've got people coming throughout the entire area, and as the small hospitals and the communities can't sustain care, they're bringing them to Billings, and you're coming to Billings for care. And that's just a logical part of this, but it's made our numbers go from very low to very high.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the operations of Yellowstone County and where we are still with that. Do you guys still have a lot of people who are teleworking and staying away, or give us some of the idea of the dynamics of that?
We actually we did a lot of that in the very beginning. We've got most of our employees are back to work. As we have outbreaks, or we have a couple of contact tracings, or we have an employee get sick, there might be a few in that office that quarantine for a little while. But we started putting all the shields up and masks and all the protocols in place so that we could continue to function. There were just so many things that we had to keep doing. So it was a matter of putting in those 6-foot restrictions, the amount of people that come to our meetings. And that's really changing the way we do government and we do our business. Even as commissioners and as the board, we meet in person. So we're in our boardroom, we're meeting. You can come if you want to. We have all the chairs separated out. We're going to ask you to wear a mask and do all of that. But you're also invited to join us through Teams, through a phone call. We're allowing public hearings to where we're giving all of the options, not only to the public, but to our staff. We understand that there are some people that are more susceptible, and it's not my job to judge or to do a medical assertion of someone just on appearance. And so giving everybody those options allows us to continue to do things as much as we can. Treasurer's office is adjusting and trying to do a lot of things online. We're trying things. If they work, we try to do them better. If they don't, we go, well, that didn't go as well as we thought, and we move on.
Probably one of the biggest things that's going to be a scotch of an experiment this time, although we have some experience with it, is the voting this time around. Now, we had Brett Rutherford on last month.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was a very good, very informative. Brett really kind of laid out the nuts and bolts of what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
But give us the commissioner's perspective on how is Yellowstone County going to hold an election, during a pandemic. What does your guys' discussion look at?
Yeah.
What factors are you looking at? And then how did some of those things get resolved?
So this is one of those things where, at least fortunately, Yellowstone County has been light years ahead of a lot of communities, especially as you look at the nation and you see weird things going on. I challenge anybody who has any questions or concerns about our election process to come by and look at it. If you want to see how we process ballots, how we send them out, how you can verify it through the Secretary of State's office, different things that we've already put in place. 85% of our registered voters were already voting absentee. So we had gotten very good at this. Yeah. So for the few people that just had to go to a ballot and do their ballot there, they can still do it. The pavilion will be open and people will be able to register to vote, be able to vote in person, turn in their ballot. But for the most part, seeing the people are engaged. When I first got on the city council, it was the first all mail-in ballot. And it was a change for people, but we went from
12%.
Yeah,
to
went
40%.
Yeah, and that's huge because I really think that then starts, giving people validity and why they're there and who they're representing, and I think taking down some of those barriers so that we can make sure people are being heard and that they're being represented in the way they want to.
All right. Now, did Brett get everything all moved out to Metra like he was going to? And
He did.
They're all set up out there.
Well, in the next phase, he is in the process right now of a drive-through.
Oh, okay.
So that if you just need to just drop off your ballot, instead of having to get out of your car and go in and all of that, he's getting a tent together and some heaters, and hopefully here in the next week or so, maybe even, I'd probably take him about a week. Yeah, you should be able to just pull up to the pavilion, roll down your window. So it's not an unattended box there, so you have to have two people at that box.
Okay.
So we're going to have basically a station there with two people outside where you can drive up, deposit it in the lock box, and drive off, and make it a lot easier.
All right, very good. Let's talk a little bit about Yellowstone County Detention Facility. I know this was a large concern from you guys from the very beginning, and have had some tests go positive down there, but seems like things are mostly under control. Talk to us about where. Talk to us about that history. Well.
So the ironic part there is. We've been under construction out there for 4 years, and we've been expanding. And every time we're almost got to that point where everything is in place, something else would break. Well, right as the pandemic started, we were really putting the final dots of paint on the walls and things like that. What it allowed us to do is that one pod that we were using as our overflow to move people around became our quarantine pod. So that's what it's become now, to where really we were anticipating our capacity going up by another couple hundred people possibly. We haven't been able to do that because now we're using it as a quarantine unit, and we've got some other space that's available for quarantining.
Sure. So they've really been able to kind of keep those outbreaks to a minimum.
They have, and even as it's what we're seeing in all of our encounters, whether it be the jail or out in our neighborhoods, there's a lot of people testing positive. And then there's a couple getting very sick. And we've had a few of those cases. Not as many as I was expecting, but we seem to be able to keep it under control. And part of it's just keeping people calm and just getting through it and keeping them hydrated. And we're able to do that in a good way out there. So.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the fair. We also had Bill and Ray on, and they did a great job talking about the fair. We had a much longer fair, but probably much less attendance, I'm guessing. How did the fair go?
So from the very beginning of the fair, I was telling the MetraPark board and staff that it was a learning experience. We understood we were going to lose money, but we needed to get to a point of trying to learn human behavior, what people were or weren't going to participate in, because that was going to judge how we were going to go into the future at MetraPark. So it wasn't necessarily and in fact we didn't want our average attendance was 20,000 a day. And we were like, well, our maximum on the grounds is going to be 3,000. What if we hit that? We never got to that level. But we did get to learn a lot about what people's expectations were, what they wanted. One of the key things we learned was, and the reason we kept it going from the very beginning was because of the 4-H and the junior livestock. And what we really found out were people wanted to see the animals. Unfortunately, they weren't able to because we kept them separate. We kept the bubble around the 4-H people. They had about half the grounds, and they were spread out everywhere. But one of the things we learned is we can do all the people on stilts and the magicians running around and things like that. But what we really needed to get back to was the animals and the farm stuff and the baking goods and art and things like that. That's what we found that people really wanted to see, even over and beyond the concerts. They wanted that. So we're looking at it and going, okay, we did it. We learned, there's the fair rides, and we had a competing carnival right across the street going at the same time. And so we had that going. So we were watching all this behavior, watching who attended, how they behaved, the protocols of cleaning. I mean, the good thing is even the carnival rides got cleaned for the first time in sorry, John. But to learn that there's proper ways and to make it cleaner. And we knew the carnival lot was kind of torn up and dirty and dusty too. We just were in the process of putting down a new carnival lot. So next year, with our master planning and remodeling and moving some things around, we should have the opportunity to have a much better fair next year. Plus, incorporate all the things we've learned. One of the things we saw happen with the livestock, with the junior livestock auction at the end of the fair, was to go online. And to have it actually in the arena. So you were able to spread out, plus go online. And it was something that they'd never really thought about as an option. And now all of a sudden, grandma in Texas could be bidding on her grandkid's steer or something and doing it that way. And it just opened up, their sales were up and they did a lot better. And it's one of those memories that those kids will have forever, that they went and showed their animal in Metra. In the arena.
Let's move a little bit past pandemic. I think we've talked about a lot of the things you guys have been dealing with, but let's stay on MetraPark.
Okay.
And so in the realm of what have you guys been dealing with that's not pandemic related, what's been going on at MetraPark? I know there's not a lot of events you can have down there. perhaps an opportune time to do some other things that you're looking to do
Absolutely.
down there?
Yep, right. You know, just a couple weeks ago, we shut down all events out at Metro to comply with the 25-person maximum. Just our staff alone, we couldn't sustain that. So it was easier for us to shut down, but it also gives them an opportunity to do some more maintenance and to see there's some little things we've always needed to get done, and we're able to do those things. At the same time, like I said, we're doing the carnival lot, and we're tearing down the grandstands, which is substantial. And actually to do that and not have a lot of people and a lot of activities to where you're doing it has given us an opportunity to move forward with that a little quicker than we expected. But it's going to give us that, and it's also let us focus on the master plan. Where do we want Metro going? What do we want it looking like? Engaging the public in different ways of saying, here are the options that are out there. What do you want this facility, this campus now, to look like? And to forget a backside. To consider it. Think of this as a college campus. Is there really a backside to a campus? Yeah, there's that maintenance shed way out back, and that's kind of what we want. We want you to be coming from any direction of MetraPark and go, wow, this is 189 acres. That is pretty amazing and very proud to be part of our community.
Have you guys made any hard and fast decisions? I know the grandstands are coming down, but beyond that, any hard and fast decisions about what comes next at MetraPark? Or you're still in the planning phase?
Yeah, so the hard decisions, like I said, were the carnival lot, the grandstands coming down. There's some basic things that are just infrastructure things that needed to be done. And those, we've already saved up money, which is kind of nice. So all of this is already paid for. We're not going to the taxpayers and saying, okay, we're tearing it down, plus we need you to kick in some money. It's all been through CIP money and things like that. So we've been going forward with all of that. Now with the master plan, we've got some options out there. This week we're going to have a discussion with the school district on the stadium option, whether that's feasible or not. There are a lot of more complicated issues on that one than I was expecting. What we want for expanding the expo. I keep telling everybody we kind of stole One Big Sky's plan and said, okay, what in their plan can we incorporate out there? And part of that, if you look at the expo, is we actually built the expo around the grandstands and actually lost the opportunity to do some of the things that needed to be done. And so I think that's one of the things we're very committed to is expanding the expo, putting in some loading docks, a nice commercial kitchen, a lot of open space. The one thing that we were learning from this pandemic, which kind of drags everything back to that, is square footage. Square footage, the county's one of the few people that can offer 36 square feet per person and sustain it. The business people are, the more people you can pack into 2 square feet, the better. Whereas we're going to be able to offer that square footage in a different way. And it might be an amphitheater, might be some RV parking. There might be an RV park out there. And then just some different ways. Food court in a whole different way because of food trailers. When we've started this whole idea, we're like, how do we accentuate the fact that we've got all these diverse food trailers throughout our community and get them on the grounds during fair time and bring some new opportunities for them as well.
Sure. Beyond MetraPark, what should folks expect to see out of the County Commission in 2021? What's on the agenda? What's on the horizon?
Wow, I think MetraPark is going to be, there's just so many things. MetraPark is going to be probably our big focus in the next year, besides the pandemic and learning how to adjust. We're always looking at space to figure out where we're going to land as a home, whether we're going to end up staying in the Stillwater building, whether we're going to build, whether we're going to look at some other options in the community as to where all the county offices should be. So those are some of the big things. I think the important thing is going to be the big thing is going to be the master plan out at MetraPark, because that economically drives our community. Plus we're learning and through this pandemic, what are the expectations of the entertainers and our community going forward, and how do we provide those services in the best possible way, because that has a huge impact. It drives the economy of Billings in ways that people just don't understand until we shut it down. And I think that's a big component on the recovery of our community. Will be getting through this pandemic, doing the safeguards to make sure it's safe. That's another thing we learned by putting on the fair is we didn't know what we didn't know. We didn't know how do you keep people safe at the fair? Is it just being outdoors? How do you wipe things down? How do you keep things clean? What are the expectations of our people? Same thing as we're looking at the arena itself. What are going to be the expectations of acts? Are they going to want so many decibels of airflow per second to come in? It changes their presentations too, because if you can't have all the smoke and the fog and things like that, it changes how they're presenting their shows and what they're going to want. So right now we're reaching out. If we're probably looking more at an amphitheater as well, because we're thinking there's probably going to be a lot of groups that don't want to be inside. And what we're seeing is a lot of people having that expectation of, I just don't want to be in a room with 10,000 other people right now. And that's going to go long term. That's not going to just be even this year or next year. That's going to be a long term thing. This is going to be in people's memory for a long time. So if we can do some type of amphitheater on the grounds and provide that, that would be awesome as well. We're kind of putting our ears to the ground, listening to people, doing things and seeing how they react, because that tells us a lot. We know we can get people in behaving, but as soon as an event's over, then everybody kind of goes back to their old ways. And so we have to figure out ways to end an event and get people to continue dispersing and staying apart at this point. And as we're working with the state, trying to find new entrances in and out of MetraPark so that we can make this more efficient. One of the big parts we're looking at within this master plan is a lot more parking, because our problem has always been just trying to get people on the grounds and keep them there. And which will probably, everything's going to transfer into user fees more at MetraPark, so that you're probably going to see us implementing everybody paying parking if you come onto the grounds. And that just helps sustain things. The more I can do a revenue bond versus a general obligation bond, the better. So if I can say we're going to do $50 million worth of improvements, but 40 million of those are going to be paid for by fees of the users, then all of a sudden you're just going out to the voters and asking for a lot less. And then you're saying, if you don't want to support this, then don't go to the events at MetraPark. If you are, those people should be paying the fees.
Commissioner Pitman, it's always a pleasure to have you on. It always goes way too fast.
Wow, that's our whole 30
minutes. It goes quick. It sure does.
The fastest 30 minutes in television.
Well, unfortunately for you, the fastest 30 minutes in the television are when I have the guys from MetraPark on, because they are after it and they're
Bill has energy that you just I just say, Mr. Energizer Bunny. He starts with, "Okay, guys," and you're like, "Okay, catch your breath. Bill's about to go."
So you're going to have to be in second place behind those two.
All right, I can do that.
Second fastest half hour in television. Thank you, Commissioner Pitman.
Thank you.